Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take that whole stack of sources you send us, all the articles, the research, personal accounts, and we really try to distill it all down to the essential insights.
Hmm.
And today, we're tackling something that so many of you have asked about. It's a topic that is just profoundly painful for anyone who's been through it.
Hmm.
We're talking about the fundamental indifference of people with narcissistic personalities.
Yeah.
You sent us sources that all kind of orbit this one central question. Why do they seem so completely fundamentally uncaring?
And that's really the perfect way to frame this. It's the mission statement for this deep dive.
Right.
Because for you, the learner listening right now, it is so important to get the context right from the start.
Okay.
We aren't just talking about, simple selfishness, not someone hogging the remote or not wanting to share dessert.
Right, this is not garden variety stuff.
Oh, this is a deep, often pathological lack of consideration. It's an emotional abandonment that leaves people feeling completely invalidated, completely unseen, and over time, it can really dismantle you psychologically.
So our goal here isn't just to judge the behavior, which can be just awful.
Exactly. The goal is to understand the mechanisms, the motives. What is the internal architecture that produces this really chilling indifference?
And the sources you gave us have incredible detail, which is exactly what we need for this. I mean, we're covering everything from the incredibly fragile ego that seems to drive all of this, all the way to the very deliberate, very manipulative communication tactics that are designed to keep partners just confused and off balance.
And of course, the massive toll this all takes on the survivors who are just trying to navigate it.
It's a very complex psychological territory, but today we are going to break down the why behind that don't care with hopefully a lot of precision.
We will. And, the first major insight from all this material really challenges a belief that's held for a long, long time. It's a belief that, frankly, can keep people trapped for years, even decades.
And it often serves as the anchor for the trauma bond itself, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Okay, so let's get into it. The core of this indifference,
Yeah.
it's a won't, not a can't. Let's unpack that because this feels like the heart of the whole thing.
It is. It starts with the absolute foundation of these relationships. At their core, they are transactional.
Transactional. So not based on love or connection, but a transaction.
Right. In the world of a narcissistic person, relationships are like, vending machines or business contracts. They're functional.
They serve a purpose?
They serve a purpose, and they are explicitly designed to meet the narcissist's needs. They really only exist as long as they provide some kind of supply or status or service.
Which means they can't feel psychologically safe. How could they?
They don't. The other person in that relationship is constantly being evaluated for their utility, and that just completely bypasses the entire idea of mutual support or just valuing someone for who they are.
This transactional view, then, it must create this immediate and profound emotional distance. The sources talk about how narcissists are so intensely preoccupied with their own pain, their own difficulties.
Yes, and they see other people's needs with almost no regard. Their world is completely centered on them. The entitlement here, it operates at a level that is almost delusional.
Delusional, how so?
They genuinely feel entitled to the service, the attention, the emotional labor of others. And they believe that's just. That's just how the world is supposed to work.
So if their partner is struggling or a colleague is having a hard time,
Their first thought isn't compassion. It's not, how can I help? It's almost always annoyance. Annoyance that their personal source of supply or function is, well, it's impaired.
so they see your struggle as an inconvenient breakdown of their necessary service provider.
That's a perfect way to put it, yes.
Okay, but this is where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that traps so many people. The big distinction. Can't versus won't. Because so many survivors, they hang on to this idea that the narcissistic person cannot meet their needs,
Yeah.
that they just lack the internal hardware for empathy or kindness.
The basic human consideration, yeah. But the sources really, really challenge this idea. They suggest that in most cases, it is a deliberate, it's a won't.
And that is a critical pivot point, isn't it? Because that's where the power can start to shift back to the survivor.
It is, because if they truly cannot do it, that suggests some kind of permanent, irreversible deficit. And that leads you down the path of, oh, I have to wait for them to heal, or I have to teach them how to be kind.
Right.
But the material shows overwhelming evidence that they are often able to meet those needs for people where the stakes matter, where it serves their self-interest.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah.
of that transactional switch just being flipped.
Oh, absolutely. Think about their behavior at work. A narcissistic person might treat their spouse with just contemptuous neglect, forgetting birthdays, ignoring real emotional distress.
Showing up late to the kids' school play.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
then if a powerful boss or a key client or someone who provides them status asks for that exact same level of attention, I need detailed feedback on this report, or I need you to show up early for this big meeting.
They can do it instantly.
Instantly, the charm comes on, the focus, the diligence, it's all there. They demonstrate the capacity when it aligns with their self-interest. They can meet the needs. They selectively choose who gets it.
Which means when they refuse to meet the needs of a partner or a child, it stops feeling like they're just incapable.
And it starts to feel like a choice.
Yeah, it feels like an intentional F you. It's a deliberate choice, and it's driven by prioritizing their own convenience and their own sense of superiority.
Precisely. And this is why the work for the survivor is so hard, but it's so necessary. That belief that the narcissist cannot care, that is the absolute foundation of the trauma bond.
The trauma bond illusion, as the sources call it.
Yes. That bond is built on you making excuses for them. Oh, they're just too busy. They were never shown how to be emotionally available. It's their childhood trauma.
All of which might be true, but it doesn't change the outcome.
It doesn't. And it keeps you stuck in that cycle of hope, waiting for them to suddenly grow the missing part. But if the truth is that it's a won't, then the problem isn't their capability, it's their intent. It's about value.
They value you only as a function.
And when you realize that, you can finally stop wasting your energy trying to fix something that isn't actually broken. It's working exactly as they designed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we accept that this indifference is a conscious won't, then we have to look at how that shows up. And the sources give us this really chilling concept. Malignant neglect. This isn't an accident.
No, malignant neglect is worlds away from just being busy or, honest forgetfulness. It feels deliberate. It feels targeted and intentional.
It's sending a message?
It's sending a message that you are irrelevant, that you don't matter, that you basically don't even exist unless they currently need you for something. It's an active dehumanization.
And there's one test that the sources bring up again and again, one of the clearest, most devastating tests of a relationship's health. Illness.
Illness is the ultimate test, and tragically, they almost invariably fail it.
Why is that?
Because when a partner gets sick, acutely or chronically, it just exposes the brutal reality of that transactional dynamic. The sick person immediately stops being a functional supply source.
And becomes a burden.
And becomes a burden. They need care, they need time, they demand a diversion of resources away from the narcissist. And the willingness of a narcissistic person to actually say out loud that they were inconvenienced by your illness, that tells you everything.
I can just picture that. Someone is, going through chemo or recovering from surgery, and their partner is complaining that they had to cancel a golf trip.
Or that they missed a night out with friends. Exactly. They just cannot see past the disruption to their own comfort to recognize the real vulnerability, the real pain of the person they supposedly love.
And it doesn't stop when the illness does it?
Not at all. The sources note that the recovery phase is often filled with these reminders, subtle or not so subtle, that you are now indebted to them for the, minimal help they provided. It just reinforces that grim transactional loop.
And in some situations, that indifference can shift from just neglect to something more active. Malice. The sources call it weaponizing needs.
Yes. This is when they know what you deeply want or need. It could be peace, it could be stability, a good night's sleep.
And they deliberately withhold it.
They go out of their way to make sure you don't get it, purely for control or to inflict pain. We see this all the time in high-conflict divorces with child custody.
Oh, yeah.
They will mess with the arrangements, not because it's better for the child, but because they know it drives their ex-partner absolutely crazy. It is the ultimate form of emotional sabotage.
So it's not just passive neglect. It becomes a tool of manipulation and punishment.
It's an incredibly cruel and strategic form of control. And it just confirms, again, that the refusal to meet needs isn't about a lack of skill or empathy. It's a conscious, cynical tool they use when they want dominance or revenge.
So if we move to the emotional core of the relationship, the biggest lack of care seems to be this refusal of emotional presence, the invalidation.
Yes. They will not be emotionally present. They will not truly see your reality, and they definitely won't hold space for your difficult emotions, your sadness, your fear, without just labeling you as crazy or too
Oh,
sensitive
demanding.
or demanding. And if you show genuine emotional vulnerability, the sources note they can even immediately call you manipulative, which just fuels your self-doubt and makes you terrified to ever express how you really feel.
And this denial of attunement, that's what really separates a dysfunctional relationship from a truly narcissistic one, right? Attunement is that core human need to just be seen accurately.
Absolutely. When attunement fails, the narcissist forces you to internalize their inconsistent behavior. It makes you believe that you're the one reading the situation all wrong.
You just want to be seen. Not even told you're right, just seen.
It's accurately experienced in your own reality. And when they deny you that, or when they only see you as a reflection of their own ego, that's what leads to that profound loss of self. You start to think, I must be the problem, because if they were the problem, they would see me.
The sources mention a concept that illustrates this so beautifully, the bird test failure. Can you explain that? It's really powerful.
The BIRD test, or a bid for connection, comes from healthy relationship research. It's basically a small moment where one partner makes a bid for attention. Wow, look at that unusual bird outside the window.
Okay.
In a healthy relationship, the partner turns toward the bid. They share the moment, or at least they acknowledge it. A narcissistic relationship fails this test almost every single time.
Almost. So when do they turn toward the bird? What are the exceptions?
The sources point to 3 transactional conditions. 1, if they're doing it performatively for an audience, they need to look like the perfect, attentive partner.
Keep up appearances.
2, if they're trying to hoover you back after a fight or a breakup, suddenly they're hyper-attentive. And 3, if they immediately need something from you.
So in all 3 cases, it's not about connecting with you.
It's about connecting with a need that they have. The moment that attention becomes transactional, the connection is gone. It's not about your internal reality. It's about serving their immediate self-serving purpose.
Which proves the won't over the can't. They can pay attention, they can be charming, but they only use that energy when it serves them.
By design, their emotional absence is a feature, not a bug. It's a weaponized expression of their indifference.
So this indifference is a weaponized choice, a won't. Then what's driving it? Why are they so afraid of real, messy, authentic connection? The sources point straight to a deeply fragile ego, a ton of shame, and a whole system of defenses, starting with perfectionism.
Yeah, and this narcissistic pursuit of perfection, it's not a productivity goal. It is a full-blown psychological defense mechanism, and it's rooted in fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of their fragile core ego just collapsing. The belief is, if they are perfect, and their life is perfect, and their partner is perfect, then they're safe. They're protected from criticism, from judgment, from anyone seeing their true, insecure self. Perfection equals safety.
But perfection is impossible, so that creates this constant pressure and often explosive rage.
Exactly. Because life isn't perfect, people aren't perfect, so they spin out all the time. When things fall short, which is, every day, their idealized defenses collapse, and that underlying intolerable shame just pops out.
And that's when the anger comes.
Immediately. Reactive anger and rage are the tools they use to push that shame back out onto the environment or onto the other person. And the standard for perfection is totally arbitrary, and it's always being projected onto others.
So they genuinely believe perfection is possible, and when it fails, someone has to pay.
And that someone is always the person closest to them.
This also explains why accountability is completely intolerable for them. Admitting you're wrong just shatters the whole defense.
It does. Accountability is tough for anyone, but for a narcissist, owning a mistake. It shatters that carefully built self-perception of being perfect or infallible. To admit fault is, quite literally, intolerable. It triggers that core shame they're so desperately trying to avoid.
So even when they apologize, it's not real.
It's rare, and it's usually hollow. It's a transactional pseudo-apology designed to just clean up the mess without accepting any real responsibility.
The classic, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Exactly. Which is really a statement about your emotional mismanagement, not their actions. They would rather cling to that perfect self-image, even if it means lying to themselves and everyone else, than face the reality that they made a simple human mistake.
It's often assumed that people who are so dominant and self-serving must be resilient. But the sources say something surprising, that narcissistic people are actually not resilient at all.
Not when you define resilience as the ability to bounce back, learn from a mistake, and adapt. They lack that flexibility. They lack the emotional infrastructure to cope when reality doesn't match their grandiose self-image.
Especially when they lose status.
Yes, a loss of status, a job, power, money, that's when they tend to collapse rather than adapt.
And when they collapse, they go straight to victimhood.
Immediately, the blame shifts outward. Life is uniquely unfair to them. Internally, they are just drowning in shame. They can't process it constructively, so they lash out, desperate to offload it. They become immobilized, telling anyone who will listen how much they suffer.
And this victim narrative means they can't even feel empathy for other people going through the same thing.
That's a crucial point. A truly resilient person who loses their job might join a support group or help others in the same boat. The narcissist sees their job loss as a targeted attack specifically on them. They can't find solidarity in shared hardship.
Their victimhood is a platform for their unique, special suffering.
It's a very effective defense against that internal shame. It justifies their rage and their demands on others.
Another key ingredient here is this toxic mix of entitlement and shamelessness. It's like a shield.
It is. They are truly shameless in going after what they want because they believe they inherently deserve it. They'll bully past people they see as below them, service workers, junior colleagues,
To get special treatment.
discounts, VIP service, you name it. They don't see these people as fellow humans. They see them as obstacles to their wants, and they just push past them with a callousness that can be shocking to watch.
And this behavior is self-reinforcing, isn't it? Because when people give in, which they often do, just to avoid a scene,
The narcissist sees it as a victory. They don't think, oh, that person just wanted to de-escalate. They think, I'm an expert negotiator, or I'm special and I deserve that. It just reinforces their low empathy and their entitlement.
and then you have the ultimate expression of this indifference, the self-aware, malignant narcissist, the one who embraces the I don't care persona.
Yeah, these are relatively rare, but they are the most destructive. They know what they are, and they just do not care about the consequences for other people.
Let's say things like,
Things designed to shock and dismiss. Yeah, so what if I'm a jerk? I'm a richer jerk than you. Or they'll claim they have to be ruthless to succeed, so they don't care what anyone thinks. That callous exterior is a defiant shield. For them, refusing to care is a sign of strength.
it's a fascinating paradox, then, that despite all this grandiosity, many of them, especially the vulnerable types, often claim to feel misunderstood.
Yes, but if you use what the sources call narcissism translation goggles, you see what's really happening. When they say, I'm misunderstood, what they're really saying is, I'm being unfairly treated.
It's the victim complex again.
It's their default setting. It's a way to deflect criticism. They're incredibly skilled at getting sympathy by talking about how much they suffer and how people are being mean to them, all while taking zero responsibility for the harm they're doing.
So this battle cry of being misunderstood, it just shifts the focus away from their actions.
Instantly. If a partner says, you betrayed my trust, the narcissist says, you just don't understand the pressure I'm under. And just like that, the conversation is no longer about their betrayal.
But here's the core dilemma for the survivor. You might actually, through all your research, come to truly understand why they behave this way.
No.
Their insecurity, their shame. But you can't tell them that.
No, that's so counterintuitive, but it's critical. If they claim to be misunderstood, you'd think explaining it would help.
Right. I see your underlying pain.
But the truth is the most intolerable thing for them. If you were to say, your rage comes from your fear of not being perfect, or your entitlement is just masking deep insecurity, they would become intensely enraged.
Because that truth paints them as flawed, vulnerable.
Which is the very thing their entire defense system is built to avoid. So understanding the narcissist is a tool only for your protection, for your sanity and your healing. It is not for their improvement.
Okay, so we've established the indifference comes from this fragile, perfectionistic ego. Now let's look at how it actively shows up in relationships. Starting with punishment and this complete lack of fault tolerance, it feels like an unwinnable game of gotcha.
That gotcha feeling is constant. You're expected to anticipate their needs perfectly, like you're some kind of, I don't know, an AI-programmed robot with no needs of your own.
And the standard is perfection, but the rules are always changing.
Which sets you up for inevitable failure. You're living in a minefield.
And the cost of that failure is swift punishment, which erases everything you did right before.
Everything. Think about the massive amount of energy you spend trying to accommodate them. You get it right 100 times. But the one time you're off your game, you're sick, you're stressed, that one failure is used as total justification for punishment.
All the previous effort is just gone.
Instantly erased. It's devastating because it reinforces that feeling that you can never, ever win. Your effort is invisible, but your slightest mistake is magnified.
And trying to defend yourself just makes it worse.
Oh, it digs the hole so much deeper. Defending yourself violates the unstated rule. Do not challenge their reality. It triggers immediate, intense gaslighting. They start introducing complete untruths, and the conflict just escalates exponentially.
So there's no point in even trying to rationalize with them.
None. And this control often involves a particularly insidious tactic, emotional blackmail, which puts you in this inescapable catch-22.
How does that work?
They manipulate you by leveraging their own suffering, real or manufactured. They'll say things like, I won't have a place to live, or I'll be in danger, or the classic, you owe me this. They know that decent, empathic people...
They're targets.
Right. They know you won't let them just twist in the wind, even when you're completely fed up with them.
So you end up helping out of a sense of duty or to prevent a catastrophe, but you're left with this profound resentment.
Exactly. The sources call it survival subjugation. You submit to their manipulation to prevent a worse outcome, but then you're left with this self-loathing because you did it. You resent them for making the demand, and you resent yourself for complying. The cycle is perfectly designed to make you feel helpless.
But these relationships are rarely all bad all the time. If they were, they'd be easier to leave. This brings us to the concept of pseudo-kindness. The calculated nice gestures.
Yes, their kindness is rarely genuine, even if it looks thoughtful on the surface. It's often performative or functional or based on routine.
Like what?
Like they're meticulous about maintaining the cars, or they do the taxes diligently, or they plan a special occasion exactly right, because it's a necessary function for their smooth life. It's not care, it's maintenance.
And these nice things often come with a hidden cost. They're followed by poor behavior, the poison cup, as it's called.
Yeah, that's it. A nice thing, they bring you your favorite muffin, they buy a great gift, is almost immediately followed by terrible behavior. Grumbling, meanness, being sullen. The nice deed is layered with bad intentions or immediate fallout.
So you feel like you owe them for it.
Right, and that inconsistency, that back and forth between nice and awful, that's what creates intermittent reinforcement. It's a powerful mechanism for relational addiction.
It's the trauma bond amplifier. It fuels your hope that the good moments mean things are changing for real.
That hope is the hook. It tricks you into believing the good part is the real person and the bad behavior is just a temporary thing caused by stress. But the overall climate of the relationship is still toxic. Entitlement, invalidation, betrayal.
But that one nice thing keeps you attached.
And incredibly forgiving. You're always chasing the illusion of that good partner you believe is in there somewhere.
The sources also highlight these throwaway phrases they use as a cleanup maneuver.
Yes, things like, you're amazing, or I don't appreciate you enough. They toss these out, not as real apologies, but to calm the situation down, get you back on their team, and get off the hook for whatever they just did.
So it's not accountability.
It's emotional currency. They learn very quickly that these phrases are highly effective at ending the conflict without requiring any actual change in their behavior. It just reinforces that the whole thing is transactional.
Let's talk about the communication methods that maintain all this. Narcissists are experts at avoiding accountability by just not answering the question.
It's a pervasive subform of gaslighting. You confront them with an issue, a betrayal, and they immediately deflect. They'll distract, shift blame, or paint you as overly sensitive for even asking.
The goal is to make sure the original issue is never resolved.
And that you feel worse for having brought it up. The person with the problem is now painted as the problem.
And then there's the more subtle but infuriating tactic of weaponized incompetence.
Ah, yes. A brilliant and cynical manipulation. They exploit your empathy and your capability to get out of doing anything. They just feign inability.
I don't know how the new dryer works, so you have to do it.
Exactly. Or, I can't possibly figure out how to schedule that. By claiming incompetence, they offload the work onto you, ensuring their needs get met while they avoid any responsibility. And critically, any potential for criticism if it goes wrong.
And finally, their use of toxic reframing to dismiss your struggles.
This is their way of saying, your problem isn't big enough to matter. They'll use phrases like, someone always has it worse than you, or at least you have bread in your fridge.
It's not meant to inspire gratitude.
No, it's meant to invalidate your pain and minimize your reality. It makes you question yourself. You start wondering if maybe you're the entitled one for having needs in the first place. It's a very effective way to make you feel foolish for expressing a need.
The ultimate result of navigating all this, the indifference, the manipulation, is a profound toll on the survivor's internal world. It starts with this erosion of self and voice.
It's a psychological slow burn. A narcissistic relationship demands that you constantly prune off the edges of yourself. Your interests, your opinions, your friends, anything that doesn't align with the narcissist's needs.
Eventually, you lose your authentic self.
You become a carefully calibrated shell of who you once were. That idea that relationships require sacrifice gets twisted into sacrificing your entire identity in the name of attachment.
And survivors learn this dangerous habit of hinting at what they need because direct communication is just too risky.
It is. Direct communication is met with shaming or rage or sabotage, so you learn to hint. You become a master of subtle communication, trying to get them to embrace an idea without ever asking for it directly.
But that habit can carry over into healthy relationships.
It does, and it's confusing to supportive partners who would have just responded to a direct, honest request. You carry those toxic communication patterns with you.
And we also see hypercompetence emerge as a safety behavior, especially in those raised by narcissistic parents.
Yes, hypercompetence is about overachieving and overcompensating in practical areas. You triple check everything, you're highly organized, you master your job.
You're trying to create mastery and security in a world that felt completely chaotic.
That's exactly it. That constant, exhausting drive is fueled by that nagging, insecure voice from the past. It's psychologically safer to focus on perfecting practical tasks than to deal with the overwhelming emotional chaos of the narcissist.
Guilt. The sources identify guilt as maybe the most powerful glue keeping people in these relationships.
It is. It's that pervasive feeling that you've done something wrong just by setting a simple boundary or saying no. Survivors often confuse basic boundary setting with being selfish because they were taught that their needs were inherently bad or disloyal.
And the survivor's best qualities, like empathy, actually become the fuel for enabling the behavior.
Yeah, your empathy, when it's unreciprocated, just drives you to justify their awful behavior. Survivors often fall into the Beauty and the Beast complex, the idea that if you just show enough love and patience, you can heal them.
But it doesn't work.
It doesn't. Their patterns are too rigid, too deeply rooted in shame avoidance. Trying to love them into wellness only leads to your burnout and more of your pain.
And this whole dynamic gets magnified by external enablers, friends, family who deny what you're going through.
Oh, enablers are so harmful. They create this massive societal gaslight that leaves you feeling completely isolated and helpless. They'll minimize the narcissist's behavior. Oh, they're just stressed, or they'll keep rewarding them.
The sources also point to a particularly damaging group of enablers, the toxic positivity crowd.
Yes, they are so damaging because they blame you for your own situation, but under the guise of self-help. They'll say you weren't clear-headed when you set that intention or that you attracted this dynamic.
Or worst of all, that you must secretly like being treated this way.
Well, yes. That external pressure to find a silver lining or take full responsibility for abuse just keeps you from trusting your own reality. It's utterly dismissive.
So healing from this requires a really significant internal shift. It starts with shifting the blame away from yourself.
It does. The first phase of grief is often immense self-blame. I was wrong for believing them. I should have seen the signs. Healing means moving past that to the crucial realization. No, they were wrong for knowingly betraying my trust.
And the grief itself is unique in these situations, isn't it? It's like a perpetual loop.
It is because of the relational trauma. It's not a clean break. You're grieving multiple things at once. The person, yes, but also the life you thought you had, the loss of trust in your own judgment, the loss of safety, and the deep sadness that the person you love just couldn't be different.
This brings us to a really important idea from the sources, moving beyond radical acceptance, which can feel passive, to radical awareness.
Yes, radical awareness is not about accepting the situation as okay. It's an eyes-wide-open view of their fundamental, unchanging limitations. It's driven by wisdom and self-protection.
It's not giving up on humanity, but recognizing what this specific person is capable of.
And planning accordingly. The sources give a great rule of thumb. If a harmful behavior happens 3 times, it's a pattern. And you have to operate on the assumption that it will happen again.
So you build your strategy around that reality, not the fantasy of who they might become.
Precisely. You accept that the narcissistic manager will seek revenge, the narcissistic mother will be passive-aggressive. You see their indifference not as a personal failure on your part, but as an unchanging feature of their personality. It removes the element of surprise.
And finally, the necessary path forward for healing is disengagement.
Disengagement, turning down the volume on the gaslighting, not taking the bait. It's the door to healing, but it's incredibly tough at first.
Because you feel guilty.
Immense guilt. You get called cold, rejecting, abandoning for refusing to play your part in their toxic drama. But that emotional distance is what allows you to see the toxicity clearly and to finally recognize the truth. They
Right.
never really did care about you, not intrinsically.
And that transition, when your empathy finally meets your hard-won wisdom, that's the pivotal moment.
It is. That's when you realize their lack of care is about their own terrifying insecurity and that their nice moments are just transactions. And in that moment, their power over you just diminishes completely. You stop negotiating with the system that's rigged against you.
And you start investing in one that's built for you.
Exactly.
So this deep dive has really clarified it. The lack of care in narcissistic people isn't some simple flaw you can fix with love. It's a complex, sophisticated, and chosen defense system. They don't care because they choose not to. Their capacity for care is reserved exclusively for transactions that serve their fragile ego.
And understanding that why, the shame, the entitlement, the transactional dynamics, it is absolutely not for their benefit. They can't handle that truth about themselves. It is solely for your protection, for your safety, and your psychological freedom. Realizing you can't fix their essential indifference. That is the moment healing begins.
So if you, the learner, are left grappling with this, the sheer amount of calculated effort and control that goes into maintaining this indifference, here is a final provocative thought for you to consider.
If a narcissistic person can maintain a complex, image-conscious life through careful calculation, strategic control, and radical indifference to the legitimate suffering of others, what might you be capable of achieving if you invested that exact same level of calculated self-protection, unwavering focus, and discernment into building a life where your health, your peace, and your needs are the unquestioned priority?
Discerning what truly serves you isn't selfish. It's the necessary blueprint for survival and for flourishing.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you for letting us guide you through your sources. We'll see you next time.